धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुः च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं
त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा.
So I chose these two verses from chapter 10.
Okay.
And I'll give you a little background why I chose it. Because we have been having these discussions over here, and we are saying that I know what Brahman is now, but I still feel limited, and that's the story of all of us. So Krishna Bhagavan kind of answered that question that what is the journey? How are you going to reach the final experience? So I thought that was from his own words. I think we should see and analyze what he's saying in that. So, and to give you a background of chapter 10, and some of you already might know it, it's called the Vibhuti Yoga. So, and the background is, maybe I should just give a little background of Bhagavad Gita also.
Sure.
So, as we talked about it, that in Vedanta they are given the highest knowledge and then you taper down. So Arjun had the Vishad, yet he was like depressed and he didn't want to fight, and then he surrendered to Krishna Bhagavan, and Krishna Bhagavan gave him the whole Gyan in chapter 2. But obviously it's kind of a summary. He gave him the highest Gyan, and then if Arjun would have got it, then he would have picked up his bow and arrow and went to fight. But obviously he had doubts, like we have. We hear one time and then we still have doubts. And it's better to clear the doubts, so the doubts kept coming. And then in chapter 6, Krishna Bhagavan told him how to meditate. And then he said, meditate upon the self. Self is Brahman. And then, but the question is, at first I need to know what self is. Otherwise I don't know how to meditate upon self. Mm-hmm. You know, so I have to. So then Krishna Bhagavan starts his discourses about who Brahman is. So that's how he starts on chapter 7. And it goes deeper and deeper because he lays a foundation. Talks about Prakriti and Purush, and then he goes more and more and more. And in chapter 9 he said, royal secret, Raja Yoga, some people call it. And call it secret, not because don't tell anybody secret, that kind of secret. It's kind of hidden from us. And now we know that it's the power behind our senses. The Brahman at that level is Turiya state, is you cannot describe it, and we have gone through it in our Upanishad also. So that's what he talked about. And then, so from that perspective, it's like a secret. Like some of the laws of nature are kind of secretive in a sense. Gravity, it's there, but we cannot see it. So that's the background of royal secret. And then in one very important thing he said in chapter 9 in royal secret, that this is the highest knowledge, and the reason he called it the highest knowledge because it is a basis for every other knowledge. That's why it is highest knowledge. It gives power to our intellect to even see something else. So from that perspective, number one. And number two, this is only knowledge that takes away our sorrow and fear. Because those are the two things that we have a problem with, right? We get like, even though we get everything in the world, we still feel sorrowful. Something is missing always. And if we may theoretically know Brahman and us, we still feel sorrow and fear. Fear of losing this, fear of health. I don't know. Fear can have so many 100 different varieties. So he said this is the only knowledge, once you get established in it, your fear and sorrow will go. Every other knowledge in the world is just worldly knowledge. That's not going to do anything for it. So he kind of gives Arjun that. So now Arjun is like, okay, now I got to get this, you know. And then comes chapter 10, and Bhagavan says that because he's been explaining what Brahman is and what Prakriti and Purush is, so he said the person who kind of knows me from every angle, and हिंदी में बोलेंगे तो जो मुझे तत्व से पहचानता है ना, वो उसको real knowledge मिलता है, you know. But how to get there, something like that, the question was. So that is the background. And then in verse 9, he says, you know, once you know, जब मेरे को तत्व से लोग पहचानने लगते हैं, एक glimpse मिलने लगती है मेरी, so then people enjoy talking about me. They want to know more and more. So उसमें वो लोग है ना, the word that he used was ramanti. Ramanti means उसमें enjoyment आने लगता है उनको. Like for us, you know, how we kind of enjoy this class, that's exactly what he's talking about. So he's saying, when with love you start seeking me, you know, and just every other thing becomes less important to you, and this becomes the kind of most important thing for you. उसके बाद क्या होता है? So that is the background. So we'll go to verse 10. We'll chant the verse 10. तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते. So, since you have the book, you want to read the English translation, and we will actually read the commentary also. To them.
To the ever steadfast, worshipping me with love, I give the Buddhi Yoga by which they come to me.
So here I just want to, before we go into the explanation, he calls it Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga, and what Swamiji is going to explain, you know, and his commentary will open it up more. It's like comprehension power, because you know this subtle subject is so subtle that sometimes you talk to people, उनको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है. So अगर तुमको समझ में आने लगे ना, तो इसका मतलब grace हो रहा है. So he's saying the person who is striving so hard, he's going to give you your buddhi. He will make it such a way that you will start understanding it. And to me, Joe's example is a perfect one, because he enjoys this being in this mode so much that he wants to tell everybody. But you know what happens. The other people, when he talks to, they just can't get it. So he's saying that who is going to get it? That's what he's saying. That the person who with love starts seeking me, then I give him that grace so that they will start understanding. Okay, with that background, you read that.
Withdrawal of one's identifications.
Wait, there is another paragraph you missed. To those alone.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, this whole paragraph is missing in yours.
Will you read it then?
Yeah. To those alone who have become steadfast in their contemplation on the self at all the levels of their personality will be given the necessary strength and ability to vault over the last ranges of their ignorance and thereby reach right into the temple of truth. Even when their awareness slips through their sense organs, or when they come to live among the noisy brood of their own emotions and feelings, or when they identify with the ever-surging and stormy disturbances in their own intellect, they are considered as steadfast only if they can constantly remember the principle of truth during all these activities. So he's just describing that what this steadfast in worshipping me means. And we have discussed that so much now, that he's not saying that leave your worldly duties. He's just saying that while doing the worldly duties, have an awareness of the higher. We have discussed that, right? That अपना हाथ और पाँव दुनिया में रखो, मन भगवान में लगा के रखो. So if you continue to do that, that will be considered as a steadfast worshipping me. Not like going to the temple and doing puja and all that. That's okay. That has its own place. But that's not what he is talking about. He's talking about that truly with your heart you are connected to the higher. That's what he's talking about. Now you can read that.
Withdrawal of one's identifications with the perceived world of objects, or the world of thoughts, or the world of ideas, can be successful only when one has discovered in oneself some other all-consuming thought to serve as an efficient substitute, yielding a satisfactory quota of absorbing happiness. The bliss absolute self has enough captivating charm to engage the human attention entirely, and therefore to the extent an individual gets attached to the truth, to that extent he gains detachment from the painful embrace of the false. The Vedantic truth is indicated when Lord Krishna, as though in one and the same breath, states, and serving me with affection, invoking me with affectionate devotion.
So I just want to kind of clarify what he's saying over there. So here he's making that statement, to the extent to which individual gets attached to the truth, to that extent he gains detachment from the painful embrace of the false. Because हम लोग का problem ये है कि remember we were talking about in the last class that how do I detach? So he's saying जितना ज़्यादा हम वहाँ ऊपर attach होंगे उतना अपने आप वो detach होता जाएगा. That's the technique he's telling over here. So and you also said that Shivananda made this one
Attached
statement.
to God and
Yes.
detached from the world.
So instead of trying for me to detach from the world, I should do
Attach to
attach. So
God.
अपने आप वो छूट जाएगा. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Affectionate devotion. We have already indicated that love means identification. To the extent the ego identifies with the self, to that extent is one a devotee of the truth, and one becomes steadfast in it. One comes really to invoke bhaja.
भज
Bhaj.
बोलते हैं ना
The-
भजन करना.
bhajan,
Yeah.
bhajana, to invoke the divinity that is now dormant in the bosom.
So here, what does he mean by love means identification? That when we say we love somebody, actually we are identifying with them. You kind of become one. It's like a small baby and the mom. You know, वो baby को pain होता है तो तुम्हें खुद को भी होता है. You know, that's called identification. And then जब identification जितना ज़्यादा होगा उतना हम लोग कुछ भी करने के लिए तैयार हो जाते हैं उनके लिए. You know. So that's what he's saying, that the more identification happens with the self, and then he's saying that divinity that's not dormant in your bosom means it's already there. We already discussed, right? It's our ignorance that we don't know it. It's divinity is there in everyone. So जितना ज़्यादा हम उसे identify.
Because we are part of the.
They don't be divine.
Yeah, we are divine. Yes.
We are divine, and it's there.
Yes.
It's just.
It
hidden
is just
under the
covered.
layers of
So I
the-
think all of us we kind of intellectually understand, but हमको अभी experience नहीं हुआ है, और glimpse थोड़ा सा इधर उधर हुआ है बस.
Yeah.
So he's telling you कि what is a process. That's what it is.
To those individuals who are steadily contemplating upon the self in an atmosphere of love, delight, and contentment, identifying themselves with the infinite, to them the Lord promises, I give that buddhi yoga by which they can come unto me.
So now it's a Bhagwan's promise that if you continue identifying and taking delight in that, so I will give you buddhi yoga. And now Swamiji is going to explain what buddhi yoga means.
This term buddhi yoga, already mentioned earlier, has been described as the right knowledge gained through meditation upon the infinite nature of the self. In the context of its use here, we may say that a devotee striving diligently, as explained above, will be blessed with an intellectual contact with or comprehension of reality. No doubt we do not mean that the intellect can comprehend the infinite. We are merely borrowing a familiar phrase from the realm of finite experiences. As long as what we have comprehended intellectually is not contradicted by any other different comprehension, we are capable of experiencing what we have comprehended beyond all traces of doubt. Similarly, the power of an intuitive awareness of reality comes only to such seekers in whom the maturity of a steady and continued contemplation upon the self has come about.
Okay, so I think here I wanted to just clarify what he meant. First, he said that buddhi yoga, he's saying that will be blessed with an intellectual contact or comprehension. And then he says, in reality, you cannot comprehend that reality anyway, right? Because you cannot grasp it with your intellect. So there's a contradiction. But then he's just saying that this is, you have to use some language. That's all it is. So he's using this language, and then he's clarifying that it is basically like comprehending means all your doubts are going away. Because हम लोग को doubt होता है, or we may not realize it, but we do have subtle doubts.
Yeah, different people have different level of doubts.
Yes.
Some people don't believe at all.
Yes,
They
you're
say
right.
There's no
Yes.
God. Then they start
Yes.
going, sitting in the company. Then they start believing and
Yes.
start thinking. And some are like so sure about
Exactly. Some are so sure.
it, and some have experienced it. So
Yes.
So there are different
Exactly.
levels of it.
You're right. So he's telling you the journey. So पहले तो doubt होएगा, and then धीरे धीरे वो doubt खत्म होता जाएगा. So that's what he means when you have like one pointed comprehension हो जाए, तो then your doubts are gone. That's what he's referring to.
When through the above process of bringing the mind to quietude, a meditator has succeeded in arresting the mind's agitations and has consequently lifted the welling from his intellect. He comes to the state of transcendental experience, which is the fulfillment of Buddhi Yoga.
So here are the three Sanskrit words also he used.
Yeah.
For agitation of mind, he used vikshepa.
Vikshepa.
And for veiling, he used avarana. And for that final thing, he used samadhi. We have heard of this word. I don't know, have you heard of the word vikshepa and avaran?
Avaran,
Avran,
I have
but we
heard.
didn't know the meaning.
Okay, so they
Avaran
use
means
that a
cover.
lot, and yes, they use a lot in the Vedant. Basically, he's saying that mind has two problems. Vikshepa is like agitations in the mind, and avaran. Avaran is cover. Avaran is a little more deeper problem because उसमें जैसे पर्दा पड़ गया तुम्हारे ऊपर, you know, and
हमारी बुद्धि पे तो
बुद्धि क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी में बोलते हैं पर्दा पड़ गया बुद्धि. And विक्षेप is like हम लोग को कैसे छोटी छोटी बातें पे agitations होता है, तो वो agitation में we cannot think of anything noble when we are agitated. That's what it means. And the best example is very, very beautiful example is that the sun is shining in the up there. Sometimes it's 12 o'clock, there are no clouds and it's shining very nicely. And then you put a bucket of water in below. And if the water is completely still and there is no dirt in it, so reflection कैसे पूरा का पूरा पड़ेगा उसके ऊपर, right? बिल्कुल वैसा ही दिखेगा फिर वो sun. Suppose उसमें गंदगी आ गई और इतनी गंदगी आ गई कि वो एक एलजी का लेयर जम गया उसके
then you
ऊपर.
won't see.
That is आवरण. So वो है सन पर उसको दिखाई नहीं दे रहा वो. So समझो कि वो एलजी तो निकाल दी हमने, फिर वो थोड़ी विंड आई इधर उधर से और वो ऐसे हिलने लगा, तो कैसे वो ब्रेकअप हो जाता है. That is considered विक्षेप. So those are the two things. It's saying अगर विक्षेप और ये निकल गया ना, क्या बोलते हैं, आवरण या agitations and covering उतर गई तो हमारा mind pure हो गया फिर. So those are the two problems. And then they say that जो बहुत ज़्यादा तामसिक qualities अगर हमारे में हो तो वो आवरण हो जाता है, cover हो जाता है उसमें. और जो राजसिक quality है वो विक्षेप पैदा करती है. Because राजसिक में हम लोग competitive हो जाते हैं, हम लोग को greed and competition and jealousy and anger and frustration, all that comes under that. So that's why they say increase the sattva, because sattva is considered luminous and तुम्हारा जब
Calming, yeah.
yes जब तमस और रजस कम हो जाएगा ना, then वो sattva तो so that's where it all fits in. So that's what it is. So he's saying that how the buddhi yoga is going to help you to take away your avaran and vikshep. So that's what Bhagwan promises, that if you continue on this path, I will give you buddhi yoga, and by which it will
So
go.
what are we doing? Are we doing buddhi yoga in the class?
Yes. So the reason I started this because we always we were discussing ना कि मेरे को
yeah.
final experience कैसे मिले. So वो process बता रहे भगवान कि how to get it to Arjun. So then we'll do one more verse, and then
Which chapter is this?
this is chapter 10
10.
and verse 10.